Bava Metzia, Daf Hey Amud Bet and Daf Vov Amud Aleph. Character and trust. Chashid Ememmunah, lo chashid Ashvuata. Sometimes we don't act on people's words because we don't trust people's words. But today we'll learn an amazing insight of the Maharal Miprag on the Tosfos in our sugya, from which we'll see that sometimes we don't act on a person's word even if we know they're telling the truth, because their character just isn't okay. There can be a character flaw that stops us from taking a person's word and acting on that person's word, even if we believe they're telling the truth. The shir is dedicated once again by Rabbi Meir Herbst, Talmud Chacham in New York, who he dedicated a shir last week and again today in honor of the yortzeit of his grandfather, Reb Sholem Alter ben Reb Menachem Mendel Mark, whose yortzeit is on the 25th Adar, the day to which Daf Vov is assigned. Reb Sholem Alter was a survivor of Auschwitz, where he was made to be the barber. He was made to cut the hair of inmates. So to say, he would say, to get Hitler back, he made sure to cut the hair of his grandson, who is Rabbi Meir Herbst, who's a Talmud of the Matmonim, and to make sure that he raises families of not only Jewish people, but people who are committed to Torah and mitzvahs. And he was also incredibly active in the Kiruv world and brought many, many people back to Yiddishkeit. And we appreciate Rabbi Meir's engagement and involvement with the shir and support for the shir, that people who dedicate a shir in memory, as I've often mentioned, I have that person in mind when I'm learning the sugya, when I'm preparing the shir, when I'm giving the shir, and people are listening to the shir. There's a lot of Torah that's generated in the schus of the person in whose honor the shir has been dedicated. Another point that I do want to make is how much I appreciate you who are here every morning. Just today I got a message from another big Talmud Chacham in New York, who is a regular follower of the Matmonim, who's considering Aliyah. So of course he's considering the regular places, Yerushalayim and Rabat Beit Shemesh and all the places one would go to. And he said to me, if there is a group of people in Ra'anana who come to a shir like this every morning, then he wants to consider Ra'anana as one of his options, because that tells him something about the community and about the people who are here. So I don't ever take for granted or underestimate the value of a group of people coming every morning, making the effort of coming early every morning, even when they've just returned from overseas. Ilan, they still make the effort to be here every morning, how valuable that is and how much it means to me and to all of those who listen to the shir and who follow the shir. Our Gemara deals with a principle we have throughout Shas as to whether a person who is chashid ememmunah, we suspect the person of dishonesty. He's not an honest person. He steals, he takes things that aren't his. What happens if he takes a shvuah, if he takes an oath? Will we accept the oath? Is a person who's not trusted in monetary matter trusted in oaths? Or do we say no? A person's not trusted in monetary matters, he's not trusted in anything. The Gemara comes to the conclusion on Daf Vov that lo amrinan migu de chashid ememmunah. No, we don't say that. If a person's suspected of being dishonest in matters of finance, that does not mean that he will be untrustworthy when it comes to a shvuah. When he's asked to take an oath, we'll believe that, we'll accept that. Says our Tosfos, nira dahainu taimim bishum de shvuah chamuro. The reason it would appear is because shvuah, oaths, are very serious things. And people take them very serious, as the Gemara says in Yuma and in Shvuas. I bring the Gemara lower down in the sources. That ha'olam nizdazeya al lo tisa. When Hashem said at Sinai, lo tisa, don't take my name in vain, which means don't make an oath using my name, swearing on the Bible as they do in the courts. Don't do that in vain, don't do that falsely. When Hashem said that, the entire world trembled. It was something that was taken so seriously. So even people who are not honest in their business dealings, when it comes to standing in a Beis Din, standing in a court and making a shvuah, they will be accepted. And we see that this principle is followed in courts of law throughout the world. People are be asked all the time, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth? But sometimes you know the person's not an honest person. Doesn't matter. If they swear to tell the truth, we'll act on that shvuah, we'll work with that shvuah. Asks Tosfos in that case, why is it we know that we don't allow a gazlan, a thief, to make a shvuah. We ask the other person to make the shvuah. Normally it should be the gazlan, the thief, person who's accused of theft, should make an oath that he didn't steal. but instead we make the other person take the oath because we don't trust the Gazna. So Tosfos says there's a difference between Doraisa and Midrabanan. Tosfos asks the same question in Ksubis and deals with it a little bit more clearly. V'im tomaru mai shnadi le'edut pasul ki dichtiv al tashet yadcha im rasha'u lishvua kasher. Why is it that if a person is suspected of dishonest business, we won't use him, or if a person is known to be dishonest in business, we won't accept him as a witness in court, but we will allow him to take a shvuah? Is he trusted or don't we trust? Do we trust the person or don't we trust the person? And Tosfos answers also, people take false oaths very, very seriously. Rabbi Akiva Eiger comments on this Tosfos in Ksubas, on the Tosfos in Ksubas on Daf Yudches, ve'ilulei she'eni kedai haya nireh li deloi kashemidi. Look at the humility of Rabbi Akiva Eiger. Rabbi Akiva Eiger is end of the 18th century, one of the greatest minds, one of the goinim of the time that we use in our learning all the time. And Rabbi Akiva says, if it weren't that I don't consider myself worthy, I would suggest that Tosfos' question is not a question. I'm recording it. So why does he write it down if he doesn't consider himself worthy? Because in terms of his learning, this is how he understands. He has a problem with the Tosfos, so he expresses that and teaches us what his problem is. And he says, because these are two different things altogether. Because shvuah, as we learned, this really aligns beautifully with our shir about 3 weeks ago on Bava Kama Daf Kuf Daled, where we talked about the role of a shvuah to assuage the suspicion of the other party. It's not to establish the truth. You need witnesses to establish the truth. But what a shvuah does do, it assuages the suspicion, because we talked about suspicion as a poison from which you can never get rid. It's something you can never get rid of. A shvuah allows you to say, well, if he was willing to take a shvuah, I guess he's telling the truth, because people take shvuah so seriously. And that allows one to move forward, that allows one to move on. So there's a certain level of trustworthiness needed for a shvuah. But when it comes to edus lifsok al pihem, this is not just to assuage suspicion. Edus is to change reality. Edus is to establish a new reality, to say from now on, this is what it is. We don't know, did A murder B? Did A steal from B? We don't know, did he, didn't he? Witnesses come, what does Beis Din say? From now on, this is how we're acting. We're assuming, we're making a decision. This is actually a decision, and we know that Hashem binds himself to the decisions of a Beis Din. And that's why, as we learned at the beginning of Bava Kama, a dayan is a shutuf l'HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'ma'aseh bereshis. A judge partners Hashem in the creation of the world, because a judge is continually creating reality based on evidence. So it's that level of evidence, if you're talking about a psak din, about making a decision about reality based on a person's word, that's a completely different level of ne'emanut. You need somebody who's trustworthy, not only in matters of shvuah, where there's a natural fear, but is also trustworthy in his day-to-day dealings with other human beings. That's the level of integrity that you need. But the Maharal has a slightly different take. It's sad. The Maharal is 200 years before Rabbi Akiva Eiger. And I don't know whether Rabbi Akiva Eiger saw this Maharal or he didn't. Because the Maharal does the same thing. It says, V'od tema deloi kashya klal. I don't understand Tosfos' question. So he has the same difficulty that Rabbi Akiva Eiger has, but he treats it differently. So it would seem that Rabbi Akiva Eiger didn't see the Maharal, because Rabbi Akiva Eiger goes on a different route. Let's look at what the Maharal says here. The Maharal says, Di'im gazlanhu bevadai nikra rasha. If a person is established as being a thief, as being dishonest in business, he's considered a rasha, he's a wicked person. Rasha is the definition of character. Rasha is not something you did. Something you did, you were Mechala Shabbos, so you're a Mechala Shabbos, so you didn't keep Shabbos. You spoke Lashon Hara, so you spoke Lashon Hara. But when you're called a Rasha, when the Torah term uses the word Rasha to describe a person, that defines the person's character. You've got a Jew, you've got a Kohen, you've got a Levi, you've got a Gentile, you've got a man, you've got a woman. These are all descriptions of character, of people, of identities. A Rasha is also an identity. Who is he? He's a Rasha. If he's a Rasha, V'Torah amra al tashet Rasha eid. That's a type of person who's not allowed to be an aid. Not because of what he did, not because of whether you trust him or not. Maybe you trust him 100%. In this matter, you say, I believe him. You still can't use him as a witness. All the Dayanim can say, yes, I know that he stole once, I know he did something, but I know him, he never tells a lie. Yeah, he stole some money, but he never tells a lie. It doesn't matter. He's considered a Rasha, and once he's a Rasha, he's not permitted to be used as an aid. Aval chashud, but if somebody is chashud amamona, he is suspected. Again, we see this theme of suspicion and the role of shavua with suspicion. If a person is suspected about money, lo nikra rasha, suspicion doesn't make a person a rasha. That isn't it. Afilu amar befirush chashudani v'gazlanani. What happens if he comes and says, I am a thief, I stole this money? Even then, eino posel atzmo she'en adam bisim la'atzmo rasha. If somebody confesses to doing something wrong, we're suspicious of him, we watch him carefully, we don't trust him maybe, but that doesn't make him a rasha, because we have a principle, ein adam bisim atzmo rasha. You cannot make yourself a rasha. You can take responsibility for something you've done. You can confess for having done something. You can create an indebtedness. Hodat baldin kemea idim dami. If you say, I owe this person money, that's as if 100 witnesses have said that. From then on, Beis Din will enforce the repayment of the money which you confessed to owing, although we've got no other evidence. A person's confession is very powerful, but not to change your status from being a kosher Jew to being a rasha. That you can't do yourself. That has to be done in Beis Din by Eidim. But if he's been established as a thief, he's come to court and we've found that he's been dishonest. When witnesses make him a rasha, then the Torah says he can't be an aid. Not because we don't trust him. Kasher hu rasha, because he's a rasha, shenei marat ashet rasha aid. There's a principle in the laws of Eidus that you're not allowed to use a rasha. And this person is termed a rasha, a brilliant piece of Maharal Miprag. And I would argue that that is what Tosfos is saying. I know the Maharal positions as a question on Tosfos' question, and he might be saying, why even go through the question and answer? It's obvious. But I think in Tosfos' answer, that is what he's saying, because what is our Tosfos answer? V'yesh lomar, de gazlan lo pasul l'shvuah ela midrabanan. The reason a gazlan can't take a shavua is midrabanan. Ula eidut hu de pasul midoraisa mishum al tashet rasha eid. We've discussed the difference between a derabanan and a doraisa. When the rabbis legislate a law, it's to make the Torah practical in the world, to make the Torah workable in the world, because the Torah is written as a system of ideals, and the world is not ideal. So the Rabbanan have to align the ideals of the Torah with the reality of the world. That's the nature of a halacha de Rabbanan, a law of the rabbis. But when we say something is midoraisa, what we mean is it's an essential principle in the world. Hashem used that principle in the design of the world. And so whether a person is chashud ala amamon, a person is suspected on matters of money, we'll believe him in a shvuah, that's all fine. But the fact that we can't use him as an aid, that's a principle in the Bria, that's a principle in the Torah, that's a doraisa. The Torah says, Al tashet rasha aid. You cannot use a person who is defined as a rasha, which he can't define himself, he's got to be defined as such by external aidim, but once he is defined as a wicked person, as a rasha, he may no longer be used as an aid. And what if I believe him? What happens if I say, yes, I know he's a rasha, but in this matter I have absolutely no doubt that he's telling the truth, and we're cross-examining backwards and forwards, and there's no way he lines up, he's honest, everything is meticulous and perfect. We still can't use him, because this is not about believability, this is not about trustworthiness in that sense. So when it comes to trustworthiness, there are two different elements that we have to bear in mind, and this is very important in business to keep in mind and to bear in mind. One is, do I believe this person? Do I trust this person? I believe he's telling the truth. That's the first question. The other question is, what is the character of this person? Is this person a tzaddik or a rosha? Is this a fine human being, or is this somebody who we would define as a rosha? If it's somebody who we would define as a rasha, as a wicked person, even if he's telling the truth, we don't act on his word. We don't take his word and act based upon that word. For all sorts of reasons. The Torah says that's just not something we do. We don't give him that credence. We don't give him that credibility to make decisions based on an opinion given by a Rasha. Imagine if you applied that principle to the media, and you just decide, number one, do I trust the source of this media? Maybe I do. It's a reliable source. Do I believe the person giving the opinion is a Rasha? Do I believe that this is a wicked person who has all sorts of other calculations in mind? Or do I believe this is a straight kosher person or source of news? If I don't believe in the character of the source of information, let's not accept the information. Let's put it aside and leave it alone, because we have that power. The same as in Ilchot Lashon Hara. We have the power to hear Lashon Hara, which we're not supposed to, but if we did, we can hear it and not accept it. We have the ability to set it aside and say, I'm not acting on this. I'm not accepting these words. But the person's an honest person. Would he tell a lie? It's irrelevant. When there's a flaw in character, we don't accept that character as a source of credible information.